Hello everyone. I'm going to do a quadcopter review on all of my quadcopters that I've recently purchased and tried out, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and reviews on every single one of them. First of all, we have the Zephyrus by Propel, which is a pretty nice little quadcopter. It has actually a 3-axis gyro. I got this from Rooftop Brands. They're based out of Houston, Texas. I found this quadcopter actually at Dillard's. I was in line buying a pair of pants and looked over on one of their little clearance items, or their clearance racks, and noticed that this was on their rack for Christmas. So I decided to pick it up for $49 to try it out, and actually it is the most stable quadcopter I have probably gotten my hands on. I literally can just take off and sit in one spot and literally not have to touch the trims whatsoever. It's really a great quadcopter for beginners, I do believe. It's got 4 LEDs, 2 red in the front and 2 whitish blue, or hyper white in the back, I would say, LEDs. They're pretty bright. They shine actually out on the prop, so you can actually fly it at night if you don't get too far away from you. The red lights shine out on the red props and kind of make them glow, and vice versa on the back. If you get sideways, of course, you don't know where you're going, but as long as you kind of go away from you and immediately turn, you'll know exactly your orientation. But it's got this neat little bottom cover right here that actually fits on the bottom to cover up everything on the bottom. And it's actually a neat little feature. It just pops on the bottom of this quadcopter, and pops on the arms right there on each corner, on all 4 corners. And as you can see, they're kind of slotted, so you can just push them on. I actually got a little mini spot camera on the way for this one. I'm gonna put on there just to actually do some FPV flying. I know it's a cheap way of doing it, but I probably will have the rolling shutter, but we'll see. I'm gonna try to build some little brackets that are cushioned well enough to take away a lot from that rolling shutter. That's that quadcopter there. That's the Zephyrus by Propel, and it's a great beginner quadcopter, and it's still really quick and maneuverable for experts. So there's actually 5 modes on this, or 5 speeds you click into. It goes to 20, 40, 60, 80, and then to 100% on your throws, which is actually a really cool feature. The only thing I don't like about this, with the actual transmitter that it comes with, it actually doesn't have a really good range on it. It says 200 feet on the box, but I noticed it's actually not even 200 feet. I get it probably a good, I'd say 50 foot up in the air, and I lose signal. So what I've done is I'm actually flying with my JXD 385 transmitter, which has a really good range on it. I have yet to make it lose connection yet, so that's a really good transmitter to fly it with. Next up is my Mold King X6. I will tell you guys right out of the box, this thing really sucks. They have a really bad calibration problem, and I'll tell you why. What I've done to this one, I was actually taking this thing apart, and I have resoldered in a Hubsan X4 board. And looking at it, I put Hubsan X4 props on it, and I've also changed out the motors to all 4 X4 motors. When I got to messing with this thing, when I first put the Hubsan X4 board in it, I have tried it out with all the stock motors in it. I've noticed I've gotten a lot of vibration out of the stock motors. Very cheap motors that come in this Mold King X6, so I'm thinking the motors have a really high vibration content to them, and I'm thinking that's what's throwing off the actual Mold King receiver gyro that comes with this quadcopter. So I don't actually think the receiver board's actually a bad receiver board. It's actually pretty decent for the quality, and the price of this quadcopter. I would say it's actually not bad. But I'll tell you what, guys, I've put this receiver board in this quadcopter with all 4 motors and Hubsan blades, and this thing flies amazing. It's actually, I think the Hubsan weighs, I want to say, either 41 point something grams or 34.1 grams. I'm not too sure. It's been a while since I weighed them. But I do know after doing these modifications to this thing right here, it weighed exactly the same amount as the Hubsan X4. Which, before I did all this, it actually weighed about a gram or two more. And I really didn't like that. Another thing is, I noticed causing a lot of vibration is these caps that they came for the top of this motor. They actually had little caps that slid down over the top of those and clipped into the body. Well, a lot of these motors have vibration more towards the top of the prop, so if you have the motors touching anything towards the top side, it's going to, of course, you know, dampen the vibration and just send it right down the body to the actual board. Which, you know, that was a good idea taking that off. And this thing sounds and is quiet, and it flies just like the Hubsan X4. I know with the modifications that I've done with it, I know y'all probably don't want to spend the money, but I had an extra set of motors laying around, and I went on eBay and bought a Hubsan board for $13 through the seller Emily and Lily. It's actually based out of New Jersey, I think, is where it comes out of. But they have a lot of cheap products. I know they're ordering overseas and getting them into their warehouse over here, because he has a couple businesses overseas out of different names. But anyways, another thing is with this Hubsan modification that I have done, this is the old board that came out of it right here. And as you can see, it's not a bad looking board. It looks like almost a Canadian leaf on it. I don't know if these things are actually made in Canada or not, but I'm pretty sure they're made in China. But anyways, I don't know if you can see it, but right about here, these prongs stick up, and from the factory, people are having a hard time getting their batteries in and out. Well, what that's doing when they press these cases together, those prongs are pressing down on those little strips up in there above the battery, and they're pressing down on the battery, causing the battery to have a tight fit. Well, I notched that little plastic deal originally when I had it, and I was able to get the battery in and out with no problem. So there's no need to cut that back flap off or anything like that. If you just take it apart and notch that little piece of plastic where them prongs stick down, causing it to push on the battery, you will fix that problem without doing any type of cutting. That's that review on that one. This one over here is JXD385. This is a really, really great quadcopter coming out of China. JXD, JD brands. They really have done a nice job of making a clone of the Hubsan X4 here. This thing right here really, really flies good outdoor. On the controls itself, when you're flying it indoor, they're not as on the stick when it's center. When you're trying to go just left or right barely, it's not precise until a certain extent on the stick, which makes it a little bit difficult to fly indoor if you're on expert mode. But if you're outdoor and you're just flying full power, full board forward, and flying all out, this thing really handles good. I mean, you could just tilt it forward and go full throttle and just turn on a dime and just fly the heck out of it. I really love this quadcopter. It's really a good buy for $30 odd, $34 off eBay or banggood.com. Really great product. This is the blue one right here, and this is the red one. I got a blue and a red one. Okay, uses the same battery as the Hubsan. Okay, this right here is the Hubsan X4, the original version. I have flown the mess out of this thing right here, and it's been through one set of motors and everything else, but I have stuffed some little pieces of foam in each corner by next to the motor, and that has dampened all the vibration that these little motors put out, and it's actually a really good idea to do if you don't have the money to buy the feet for the original. But a lot of people say they have a wandering problem where it kind of drifts to the right and backwards or forward. Well, as long as you have new props on this thing and you do a little bit of vibration dampening to it and calibrate it, when you do that, it should stay pretty stable and pretty trimmed out. This quadcopter right here is my best indoor flying one, just because it's just really precise with the stick. I mean, it does exactly what you want it to do. Really fun quadcopter, and I really recommend any of these to anybody getting into the sport. That is my quadcopter review, and I hope you tune in next time for the next review, and I will fly the Mold King X6 and let y'all know and see how good it flies, and see if maybe y'all have any questions, and maybe y'all would want to do this modification. I highly recommend it if you have some spare parts lying around. Makes a really good quadcopter. That's my review.